I needed to make a video about the COPPA, which most people just say COPPA, Cabana, depending on what part of the coast you live on. YouTube says because of COPPA, you are legally required to mark your video as kid-friendly or not. Number one truth that they are not telling you is ultimately when it comes to the law, because YouTube is still classifying themselves as a platform, YouTube, Google Inc., is required to label your videos. You do not have to label anything you upload. But if you do, what you are doing by marking it either appropriate for children or not, what you do is you remove the liability from Google in the event that you try to sue and say, my content is not being put out to my subscribers, or, quote unquote, the algorithm is filtering away my content. YouTube is trying, the same way Facebook is, to use the supposed kid-friendly label to make people restrict their own videos. And here's the fork in the road that they've created. It's not a fork it's more of like a fork maneuver, a skewer, if you will, from chess. If you mark your videos as kid-friendly, you need to know this. Number one, people will not be able to put your video in a playlist. If you upload a series of videos, they will not be able to put it in a playlist. Number two, they will not be able to search it the same way I think you can still put tags on it, but there are several features that immediately become removed if you mark your video kid-friendly. If you do not say that it is, it's made for adults, if you say that, because they don't give you a third option. The third option is you leave it blank. That's the third option. And you remind Google that's your responsibility. And you can't keep running away from the responsibility to determine whether or not, when you remove somebody's content, you're responsible for it. So, when they drug all these people in front of Congress, instead of, sending them to an actual court and making them make a judgment based on, legal precedent, they brought them to Congress and then they just made a big show of it. And nobody got in trouble. Zuckerberg didn't get in trouble. None of the people that have the quote unquote platform had to stop, doing anything that they do, which they do. We all know that they do this. And we know that every change that comes about, the closer we get to an election cycle, the more that the purpose is that anybody who does not pay for advertising rights on Facebook, Google, and the like, number one, they want to make sure that the paid ads run so that everybody sees it. They want to make sure that everyone is subject to their version of free political ads. And also, they want to make sure that you make the mistake of limiting who your audience is. If you want to choose between children and adults, the only person that should be making that decision is the parent of the child. Because even at 13 years old, which is supposed to be the legal basement, if your child is below 13 years old and they're watching YouTube, you are breaking the law because you are their guardian. And nothing in the terms of service ever said below 13. So somebody created a Google account and left the age out of it and basically allowed a younger than 13-year-old to be on YouTube, and you are breaking the law. That's a law. Or it's more of their policy, but it's basically they shouldn't be on the internet. And 13, I don't know too many states that you can legally work at 13. But if you are not working, you do not make money to purchase an internet service provider. So therefore, your parents are still liable. Whenever that comes up, just remember, the parents are the ones in trouble. But YouTube does what YouTube does. Facebook and TikTok do what they do. But written into every piece of their protective, lawyer conglomerate is just, we're going to make restrictions, but ultimately you're going to see what you want to see. But by making a content provider specify in their video, you know what? I specify my video by putting a title on it. And I am not required for anything other. I don't have to self-identify. So I will not be identifying, and Google will make its determination again, and they will not pass the football. They will take the responsibility, because the more times the message is, this is inappropriate, and we say that this is inappropriate, I'll let the algorithm continue to do what the algorithm does. I will not self-restrict. When they completely shut down my channel, that's another thing entirely. And I'll just, start watching my videos on my phone. And the two other people that actually still watch all these videos will, I don't know, they still haven't made email allow, you can't send a video, especially when somebody rambles on for over 10 minutes. The point is, COPPA did not change anything legally. It is not my video. It's my video in the sense that I'm the one who records it and I'm the one that uploads it. And yes, there was a smeared deer all over the road. It's my video in the fact that if I violate any of the terms of service. Now, if they want to make COPPA a terms of service, then they can say the new terms of service, which they will eventually have to do when they realize, okay, enough people have figured out that we're not required by law to label our videos. We have to do it. YouTube has to do it. Then they will say, well, now it's part of the terms of service that you have to. But as long as it says you are legally able to, just know that that's not true. The only thing that you are legally required to do is say, I'm not violating any of the terms of service that I've signed. But since they changed the rule about my subscribers and my payment, and there's still $75 out there, I'd like to see that contract, because I still want to know why I didn't at least get my $77. Because when my revenue was what it was, they were supposed to pay me as soon as I hit 100. And then they just decided to say, well, now you need 1,000 subscribers. And now you need to go through our rings. But they did not, I didn't sign that agreement. And if I signed an agreement in the first place, which I became a YouTube partner in 2014, 2015, and then they changed the agreement after they realized that it didn't work for them to win the election. Then they realized, okay, we need to make a massive amount of changes to how we put content out there, because there's an awful lot of people that are freely telling people the truth that we didn't pay them to tell, or we may have had to give money to people. And see, if it's about advertisements, nobody, I say this, I've been saying this for years, nobody likes commercials. Even a funny commercial has nothing to do with the commercial. But nobody likes commercials. But most people do like money, except that I was telling a good close relative the other day that what people really like is time, and they're constantly giving up their free time for a so-called universal wage. And that's sad. If you were more concerned about the fact that God is in control of how many hours you have left in your life, you wouldn't worry about how much dollar goes on the top of the fraction, because the hours are by far the most important.